Okay, all right. It is about 11:07, and I hereby call the meeting to order of the City of Flagstaff Indigenous Commission meeting. So the next item on the agenda is to do the roll call.
And I'll help you with that. Commissioner Cuddy-Eye?
Oh, I'm here. I'm present.
Commissioner Gishi? Commissioner Gishi? Commissioner Kabodi Adekai will be on at 12. And then there's Co-Chair Phillips.
I'm here.
And then Co-Chair Washington will be absent, excused absence today. And then Commissioner Marks. Commissioner Marks. Commissioner Toya. Commissioner Toya.
We here.
Okay. We just have to hear you on the recording that you're here.
Yes, ma'am.
And Commissioner Weathersby.
Present.
Commissioner Whitehat.
I'm here.
Thank you. And then Commissioner Yellowhair will be on at 12.
Okay. Thank you, Rose. So we've achieved a quorum here then?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, thank you all for attending this meeting. And we'll try to get everything, all the discussions by 1 o'clock. So the next item that we have on the agenda is the land acknowledgement. And that makes me so happy to see that I'm hoping the entire city of government agenda items. This is becoming a very common practice across the nation. So I'm happy that we're doing this as well. So land acknowledgement, Fawn, do you want to read to us the land acknowledgement?
Yes, I will, and we may begin. The Flagstaff City Council humbly acknowledges the ancestral homelands of the area's indigenous nations and original stewards. These lands, still inhabited by native descendants, border mountains sacred to indigenous peoples. We honor them, their legacies, their tradition, and their continued contributions. We celebrate the past, present, and future generation who will, however, forever know the place as home. Ascoli, Zangapi.
Yeah, thank you, Fawn, for reading that. And so moving right along into the agenda, next we have public comment. So at this time, any member of the public may address the commission on any subject matters that's within their jurisdiction and that is currently not scheduled before the commission on this day. And due to the open meeting laws, the commission cannot discuss or act on items presented during this portion of the agenda. And further, to address the commission on an item that is on the agenda, please wait for the chair to call for public comment at the time the item is heard.
And we have Council Member Shimoni.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you, Co-Chair Phillips. Hi, Commissioners. Adam here. Just wanted to give a quick public comment to the Commission. I've been in conversations with the American rehab campuses which is a treatment center for substance abuse or substance use. And they're based typically out of Tucson. They have a center down in Tucson. I think it's got like 140 beds. Like it's like a pretty large project. They converted an old motel, but they offer long-term treatment for substance use. And I know the nearest one to us is in Prescott. So basically, this company is bought land in Flagstaff area, and will be building a project here in the region, both a detox center and a treatment center on one property. And I went down to Tucson and I took a tour of their campus, and I was actually really impressed with their operations. They accept Medicaid, and I think they're going to be able to serve a lot of our population that will be able to utilize their services, especially through the alternate response, and also first responders being able to drop folks off for detox, and then for treatment as well, all voluntary, of course. But they really expressed a strong interest in customizing the programming and their efforts to align with Indigenous values. And I've put them in touch with Rose, but just wanted to plant a seed with this commission and hope that maybe one day the commission can dive into this project a little bit more and help really shape it to be best for our communities. That's all I wanted to share, and we can just dive into this another time if it's placed on the agenda. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Adam. Just to add to that, Commissioner or Co-Chair Phillips, I did speak with the person, a representative from that rehab campus program or the business yesterday, and we were able to set an appointment for next week to start talking about how we'd like to have this roll out in getting Indigenous communities involved. And so I want to be able to talk to her about including members of ICF and members of this commission, as well as members of NACA. So that's just to start. And so next week will be the time we start talking about that between her and I, and then go from there and keep you all informed. Okay?
All right. Thank you so very much, Rose. And Councilman Shimoni, welcome to the meeting. So thank you very much for that update. And I just learned, with respect to what you just brought out, I just learned that out of all the countries on the face of this earth, this country, United States of America, is ranked #1 for substance abuse and drug abuse. So for more services like this, it just adds another layer of help and assistance to those that are hopelessly, in some cases, addicted, to alcoholism. And our people, we are trying to heal from the historical traumas, the intergenerational traumas, but by the same token, it's been very, very challenging. But irregardless, that doesn't mean that we should stop. The healing needs to continue. So thank you very much. That report means a lot. So Fawn, you have your hand up?
Yes, I do. And I just want to make a quick comment that Rose brought up NACA, and I do work as a case manager for NACA, and I am glad that this is going in that direction, as I want to be one of those people who are able to help these individuals go into rehab therapy, but it's the aftercare. So that's my focus is once they do this, what is our aftercare plan for all these individuals? Thank you.
Thank you. Just to keep it order, this is not on the agenda, so just to make sure that there's no real discussion or input. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay, so thank you. This will probably be put back on the agenda at a later time, and then we can definitely get into some other issues on the matter. So thank you very much. So number 4 on the agenda, we have the approval of minutes, and there's none at this time.
There
Trying
will
to
be
scroll by.
two sets of minutes for next meeting. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I'm trying to, if you see my hand, that's me trying to scroll up the, okay. All right, yes, okay. General business and possible decision. Rose, do you want to read that?
This is just to turn over the information, or the floor over to the, to Jana Weldon, who is going to be speaking regarding this presentation, the project at Sawmill Multicultural Art and Nature County Park. So I'll give it to her and she'll be able to share the content of what she needs to present.
Okay, thank you, Rose. Co-Chair Phillips, Commissioners, I appeared in May in public comment with this opportunity to participate in an Indigenous representation project at Sawmill Park. I'm going to go ahead and bring up my presentation that I went through fairly rapidly last time. Let me go to the beginning. First of all, are you seeing my presentation?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. I always like to check before I kick in. I'm going to go on this last page first, just to say that this is a collaborative project. Very instrumental in this is the Coconino County Parks and Recreation Director, Cynthia Neiman. Also, Rose Tohi has been working very closely on this, as I will let you know more fully in the presentation. And then I'm the city liaison from Beautification, Arts and Sciences, and I'm the project administrator there.
Jenna,
and so here, I'm going to go to, yes.
Can you make it a little bit bigger?
Yes, I'm going to blow it up right now. And I will end on that page. So I will put my contact information in the chat as well. So we are forming a working group to put together the scope for the Indigenous Representation Project at Sawmill Multicultural Art and Nature County Park. And there's quite a bit of background to how we got here. Our program has dedicated funding for Indigenous representation cultural projects. And it's not project, it's projects, it's plural. And through a series of investigatory meetings about where we might want, or what types of projects we might want to include in the funding, we had a series of meetings with Rose and actually invited some consultants from Santa Fe too, to give us some ideas. But we came across also the county park, which had already initiated rotating art projects as part of its multicultural guidance that it was given for the community. But they have not been able to afford to actually rotate the art since the initial installation. So Rose and I did a site visit there, and we found lots of compelling reasons why this might be a very good location to do a project. And therefore the city would take over the funding of the rotating art. And then the county would give us permission to use their park. And so this project was prioritized by our commission, the BPAC Commission, Beautification and Public Art, and to initiate this year and install next year. So let me just tell you a little bit about the park and what the working group is going to do. The working group is going to determine the scope of the art project. So staff is not going to kind of dictate in a top-down way. We want this working group to have strong input. There are 5 pedestals for sculpture, which will be the core of the project. And this down here, this represents an empty pad. And there's 5 of these. And if you look at the park overall, it is location 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So it's along a pathway. And then also along this pathway, you come over here, and there's actually a little outdoor amphitheater with a mural wall that also changes. And the county is changing that mural pretty regularly. And then also this is the Willow Bend Environmental Center. Oops. And down here is a wonderful little gazebo that can also be used for events. And we kind of wanted to look at those things too, in addition to the sculpture pads. But this is what the working group will work on. You know, some obvious questions. How often should the art be rotated? Should it be every year, every 2 years, every 3 years? There's a determination about durability, short periods of time. What fee should be offered to the artist? Should the art be just a loan? Should it be existing work, or should it be created for the site? Maybe we need a platform on a couple of those blank pedestals, because if a lot of Indigenous artists work in two-dimensional platforms, so should we plan for a platform that would hold two-dimensional art on one or two of the pedestals, or all of them? You know, is performative art a potential as well? Because of the Willow Bend gazebo and the stage by the mural, you know, do we want to include other types of art rather than 2- and 3-dimensional art? The funding is for the Indigenous Representation Project. How will that be captured? And given that there is a multicultural aspect to the park and in their you know, guidelines, you know, how should that be explored? What will be our guiding principles? Rose has indicated an openness to multicultural representation, as long as, of course, Indigenous representation is a primary part of the project. And then what should the selection process be? What is the criteria for selection? All of this is going to be explored with this working group. And the working group is going to be made up, we hope, of the following commissions from the city and the county. And I already have 2 volunteers from BPAC. I'm hoping to get 2 volunteers from the Flagstaff Indigenous Commission. I have a representative who's volunteered already from the Parks and Recreation Commission. And I also have a volunteer from the Indigenous Peoples Advisory Council. So the other commissions, I either haven't appeared before or I haven't gotten a response yet. And so now it's time for your questions. I will just basically say we will have a kickoff meeting on site in June with 1 or 2 follow-up meetings as necessary. So we'll probably kick off in June, view the site, kick around some ideas, take some time to mull on them, and then kind of come back at a meeting and see if we can get a scope of work that is inspiring to everyone. And that concludes my presentation. Rose, did you have anything you wanted to add?
The only thing I wanted to say was, maybe you need to mute, Jenna. Got it? Sounds like it. All right. So the only thing I wanted to add was that this has been a conversation that started within the city ever since ICF made that presentation to City Council about visibility and how visibility includes public art, street names, names on buildings. Those kinds of things are some of the things that ICF had presented. And so out of that, and then coming on board with the Indigenous coordinator, that conversation within the Flagstaff Beautification Arts and Science program, that conversation started. And then was more, that was just the conversation then. And then after that, once the coordinator for Indigenous initiatives started, then that's where there was actual budget line items that were put into the budget. And this is finally getting to the point where we're able to begin to really speak to what it is that we want out there as public art to represent Indigenous people. But beyond that, including the relatives of the Hispanic descent, as well as the Black community, those relatives, and how we can share this space. So those are some really in-depth conversations we've been having with NCD. So, but I just want to be able to give Jenna this opportunity to really give that information to this commission so that the commission can have some involvement regarding having 2 volunteers to be part of that working group. And then we'll have others as well. So it's a really great opportunity for some real voice to be in here. So if you guys can have that discussion or questions, that would be great. Thank you.
I would like to make a comment. This is Commissioner Toya. So, I do agree with the art and the thought and the reason behind all this. I am actually Jemez Pueblo and Zia Pueblo. And when I go home to New Mexico, that's the first thing that makes me connect, is seeing all the art and the state acknowledging who we are, especially in Santa Fe. I'm quite aware of that. You probably all know how it looks, how pretty it is with designs and all that. And also, to me, it's an eye opener for educating those who have not had the time to go home and practice our culture and our traditions. So every piece of art has meaning and there's a story to it. So if that can be displayed somewhere where it reaches someone in that mode of teaching for any human being, I would be grateful to help you with that.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Toya. I would absolutely welcome your participation.
Thank you. And just
Okay.
a quick example, we have a Hopi room at the NACA building, and we do have Hopi art on the wall. So that is a perfect example of a start.
Thank you, Fawn, for that offer. I think that all Indigenous nations, they have their own unique art designs and what have you. And so whoever wants to come forth, in this case, Fawn has come forth. So I think that that kind of collaboration is needed. So thank you very much for your presentation, Jenna and Fawn, for your offer that's on the table. So thank you very much. Are we done with the report then?
We just need one more volunteer. If we don't have one in this group, I can reach out to the others who might be willing to. Is there anyone else who'd like to be part of the working group? Are there any questions, anything, comments, encouragement?
I have one more comment. I think Daryl Marks would be someone to maybe ask to be a part of this, or I could possibly reach out to him also and just kind of explain, and then also just mention what my thoughts are about it and why I'm joining or deciding to help.
Sounds good. Thank you,
This
Fawn.
is Commissioner Weathersby. I was going to also nominate Daryl Marks to be one of the people who helps with that. And I really appreciate the work that has gone into it so far. And I do enjoy that park in that area right there. I used to take my little girl there when she was a baby and go walk around there. And so thank you for the work that you're doing, Jenna.
Thank you. Rose, would you like me to reach out to Daryl, or would you like to do that?
I'll go ahead and do that, and then probably send an email to him and to you as well to see what he says.
Okay.
All
Well,
right.
thank you, everybody, for your encouragement.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry I missed out on a part of your presentation. My phone was I was having some difficulty. I was going to switch to my iPad, but that didn't work out, so I'm back to my phone. So anyway, thank you very much. And what about other artists like Chantal Piguet and?
Yes, that will be a key, wonderful part about this group is that when we have this call to artists shaped out of our meetings, then I, of course, will turn to this group to who to send it to, because that is really important, the outreach for artist applications.
Yeah, okay, all right. I guess that's the beauty of this commission. So thank you once again for your presentation, and I hope that everything comes together as to how you envision it. So, okay, are we ready to move on then now?
Yes, I just need to have Jenna to stop sharing so I can share mine. Can you see the agenda?
It's see
Can you
that
see
was part I wanted to switch to my iPad. It's just very, very tiny. Okay, all right, I can.
I can read it for you.
Yeah, please, yes.
Okay. Jenna, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate that. I think as colleagues, we work really well together. We also started together, so we're like twins.
Oh.
All right, so our next presentation is the Indigenous Circle of Flagstaff presentation. And Mr. Chris Jocks is here to represent that work and also the plan. He's going to focus on the plan for the Indigenous Community Cultural Center, and then just provide some background information for those who are not too familiar with the work of ICF, its growth and focused work. So just want to also just turn it over to Mr. Chris Jocks. Chris, are you able to share, or do you need me to share?
I can do that. Thank you, Rose.
Okay.
At least I think I can. Oh, heavens. This is not as easy as I thought.
Let me see if I can.
Oh, here, I got it. I found it. It's just I'm not used to Teams.
Do you want me to turn mine off?
It came up.
Can people see it?
Yeah, we can see it.
Well, that's funny because I can't.
Oh my goodness, that's a problem.
You're on slide 1.
Okay, I can see this, or I can see you guys. I can't see them both at the same time, but that's okay. I already know what most of you look like anyway. So, thank you, co-chairs and commissioners. I appreciate this chance to present about the Indigenous Community Cultural Center, which is a galvanizing and I think really important idea, not a new idea at all. But let me first introduce myself to those of you whom I haven't met. My name is Chris Jocks. I am Kanien'kehá:ka or Mohawk from Kahnawake, Canada. I have lived in Flagstaff almost 8.5 years. I'll very quickly greet you in my own language. I will say, what kanu huaradu, danu segun sewa goyagun, segun skanu gowa. Rumanyenti yunjats kahnawagani jatwagenu. In our language, when I greet you, I'm supposed to be grateful that you've arrived here in this virtual space safely, and to be grateful for the relationships that we share. I'm also on the faculty at NAU in Applied Indigenous Studies, where I'm taking over as chair, so they say, in July. Okay, and I'm going to be talking about a concept and an idea here that is moving towards reality. There are several members of this commission, the majority, I should think, who are part of ICF and who know this well. Normally, I wouldn't be comfortable presenting on this just by myself. We are as an organization and now a 501c3, we are organized according to Indigenous principles and values. We have a non-hierarchical, consensus-based approach. We are very much Indigenous women and elder-led. But there are so many members of our group here that I am fine with presenting this, and I'm sure they will add or subtract to anything that I present. Those of you who are part of other organizations may have seen an earlier version of this presentation, but I've updated it to include some of the things that have happened over the past year. This is actually from Google Earth, but I'd like to think if the sacred mountain at whose feet we live had good eyesight, this might be a view from there, showing the location for this is a proposed site for the Indigenous Community Cultural Center. The concept exists independently of wherever it gets sited, but this is the site that ICF is pursuing at this time. You can see Francis Short Pond there in the center, and then slightly above and to the right of that is the Jim Thorpe Annex site that is used to be the fleet maintenance yard for the city of Flagstaff. The city of Flagstaff has a very nice new maintenance yard out on West 66, so that they are trying to figure out what will happen now to that property, which includes not only the building there, it's the large building with a tan-colored roof, but the grounds surrounding it. So I'm going to talk about the concept, the site, and end on an emphasis on synergy. This is an image from one of our, I believe this was the first, possibly the first, one of the Indigenous community forums that ICF helped put together back in 2016 and 17. This is really what brought ICF together as an organization. The concept is not new. We have plenty of documentation on an original, the first documented case that I could find where or plan for an Indigenous or in that community cultural center, by whatever name it might have been known, was back in 1983, and that was a joint plan by NACA and the Hopi. Did I get that right? HIRC, by the Relocation Commission. Seems like Navajo.
It's supposed to be Navajo Hopi Indian Relocation Commission.
Yeah, I forgot the N. My apologies to all my Diné relatives. I was in a hurry. I looked at that and said, that doesn't look right. But anyhow, that was in 1983. It was really a beautiful plan in many ways. It would have been located out at Fort Tuthill. There may have been other proposals since then that or that I at least am not aware of. But in 2016-17, as I have described, ICF came together to put on a series of 6 community forums. And on the right, you can see the dates and the topics of each of those community forums. The purpose of these forums was to hear from the Indigenous community or communities here in Flagstaff about our experiences, our concerns, our ideas, and to present that and invite city government in Flagstaff as guests, not to make speeches, but to be present as relatives and to listen. Those of you who were there know that the first session we had, the first forum we had on November 16th, 2016 was astonishing. We put up 2 tables and expected maybe 30 or 40 people. Unbeknownst to us, this became a required event for the students out at Kintlana dorms. So the buses started pulling up and suddenly we were scrambling to put up more tables and chairs. And I don't know, it was like way more than 100 people we had that showed up for that. So we had promised to provide food for everyone and we came through. So that was an exciting way for us to begin. The point here is that in all of those gatherings, a pretty constant theme, idea, hope that came from community members was for some kind of community center here in Flagstaff. People had not forgotten the earlier attempts, and there were probably attempts even before that to build a community center. A lot of the families and individuals who participated expressed that, there should have been such a thing here long, long ago. And as long as I'm at it, I want to announce that there will actually be a new Indigenous community forum, the first we've had since COVID. And that will be Friday, March 13th at 5:30. At the same location, we have the rest of them, most of the others at the common area at Flagstaff High School, and food and refreshments will be provided. And the main purpose of this new forum will be to update the community and hear from the community, to update on what ICF has been up to and to hear back from them as well, from all of yous. That's what we say out in Mohawk country. We say yous.
So for the auditory people, it is May 13, not March.
Did I say March?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. Well, it is written May. Yes, May 13th of this very year, 2022 at 5:30. Thank you. This will be, I've submitted this PowerPoint, so I'm obviously not going to read through it, but this was our last brochure type update of what we've done. This is more background on ICF. This we produced last fall, and it does list our priorities for this year or for 2021-22, which, yes, number 1 is the Indigenous Community and Cultural Center. We are helping to facilitate responses to Snowball's new development plan. We continue to be involved with advocating for our unsheltered and unsafe relatives. And at some point, we're going to get back to an economic contribution study. That was input we got from the community as well. Why isn't there a study of how much Indigenous people contribute to the city of Flagstaff's economy? The city, way back in 2017, committed $30,000 to such a study. And what we all learned from that is that $30,000 is not enough. And the study that $30,000 would have got us would not have been useful. So we need to go back to the drawing board on that one. This is more I guess, what wellness means to our community, positive programs to build healthy relationships, families, and communities, respect for sacred, revered, and beloved places, youth and elders learning together, culturally grounded treatment for our relatives who are in danger from substance abuse, relational violence, despair, or homelessness, and respect for Native histories and ways of life in schools, business, and governments. Again, you can read through this in more detail when you're able. So the core concept is what is and was and has always been a Native community center, a home away from home, where Native families and individuals can share, can visit, can relax, that will have meeting rooms, a kitchen, and gardens. From the beginning, we are told this will be intertribal. Members of all Native nations welcome. An advisory board with representatives of regional Native nations and active outreach. Programming would, focus on youth and elders, learning and teaching, language, cultural knowledge and skills. And the community center would also include interface and connections with the many other local service providers, as well as the same regional Native nations. To this came to be added, as we spoke with the city, an additional, what I'm calling an interface concept, an Indigenous cultural center. So you notice I've been calling it a community cultural center. That nomenclature is important because both of these components are part of it. I want to emphasize community center is core, but to this kind of surrounding it is this interface concept of a cultural center where everyone in Flagstaff would be welcome as relative, including non-Indigenous residents and visitors. The purpose here would be to increase visibility and understanding of Indigenous accomplishments, challenges, history, and cultures. A rotating welcome exhibit that would introduce visitors to Indigenous history and presence in Flagstaff, including, of course, the significance of the sacred peaks. It would also be, in our vision, a performance and showcase venue for artists, Native artists, and speakers. There would be gatherings, workshops, events dedicated to sharing understanding around historical trauma and reconciliation, what one of our members has called Reconciliation Park. So that's the kind of public-facing aspect of this community cultural center concept. So all of this program we've put into, in our proposal, is organized in 3 program areas: intergenerational programming, healing and conciliation. Conciliation because for many of our members and our community members, you can't really call it reconciliation if there's never been conciliation to begin with.
Yes.
And then the third area as a platform for Indigenous history and vision makers. Okay, that's the fleet maintenance shop. We're going to talk about the site here a bit. I realize I'm probably going a little long, although I don't know anybody gave me a time limit. You got to watch out for that.
You're good to go, Chris. You're fine.
Okay.
Go.
All right. Well, the location, as many of us know, was always a traditional gathering place, an intertribal gathering place. It was also the location of the Flagstaff All-Indian Powwow from 1929 to 79. Today, it is part of what we are calling Jim Thorpe Park, also near Flagstaff High and Kintlana Dorms. It has easy access. It's in the heart of the city of Flagstaff. It adjoins the park as well as community garden. The Rio de Flag runs right next to it, and of course, Francis Short Pond. The view of the peaks is something that kind of electrified us, I guess you could say, the first time we toured the property. According to city ordinance, this land must be used for either park, recreation, or museum. And we're fortunate to have as one of our settler descended members of our group, the former director of the Museum of Northern Arizona, Robert Brunig, who is very, very informed and passionate about the fact that the kind of programming that we are envisioning for this community center completely qualifies as a museum. Museum today no longer has to mean a dry, stuffy place with old stuff in cases. Okay, the city owns this property and at this point doesn't have any use of its own intended, either for the building or the land surrounding it. The city council members, both this council and the previous council, have expressed, in fact, I think the one before that, support as long as it fits within zoning ordinance and will provide a public service. And I guess I'll just stop here and emphasize this vision that we have gathered from the community. It's not ICF's vision, it's the community's vision, would benefit the entire city of Flagstaff. This is not just, although this is a community center that will benefit our families and relatives as Indigenous people here in Flagstaff, but it will also benefit the entire city as the vision of a conciliation center kind of comes to completion. The city council support would include a nominal, $1 a year lease, and again, in order to be eligible for that, we have needed to explain how this would benefit the city, which is easy. The city has indicated they might well be willing and able to cover the insurance and some of the maintenance costs. So far, there's been strong public support for this concept, and I have some more slides on that, the more updated slides. So, ideas. It has the huge garage area, and yes, there needs to be a lot of remediation to this site before it can be put to this use, but this could be, a main room. It has big south-facing windows and huge snowplow-sized doors, so its potential, it could include indoor/outdoor gatherings. So it certainly is an ideal site for passive solar heating. This space could include exhibit space and large meeting space, performance space. It could also be somewhat divided so that, the architects have various different ideas of what to do with this space. The west side over here, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but this west addition, which was added onto the original building, would be ideal as a reception and a kitchen space. You've got to have a kitchen. The entire north addition, which was added even later, has a lower roof and would be ideal for meeting rooms, workshop areas, practice rooms. All sorts of different uses are possible along that northern side of the building. Beyond the building on the north side is this beautiful view, and it's even nicer now that they've taken the concrete out of there, or at least some of the concrete, and these structures have all been removed. But it's right along it's along the footpath, although there's talk about relocating that because the footpath here goes right along the Rio de Flag, which will flood during the August rains sometimes. And the pond, of course, is beyond that. And the view of the peaks is marvelous from here. So, this would be a beautiful setting for a small performance space, perhaps, or to me, it looks, just seeing those metal structures which were there for housing something else, but to me reminded me of a dance arbor, and as well as just a beautiful place to relax. Okay, the city is currently about halfway through, maybe a little more than halfway through of their community engagement process. We were one of the community stakeholders that met with them early on. They're very much aware of this proposal for an Indigenous community cultural center. Many of us, or some of us at least, from ICF were present last Saturday at the first of these live in-person design sessions. I don't know if anybody here knows that film, Best of Enemies, about desegregating schools in North Carolina, but there's a whole thing in there about charrettes being a kind of structure for bringing together people of diverse points of view to find common ground. So that's what the city did, and I was actually pretty amazed by that process. I'd never been through anything like that before. But without going on and on with stories, I will say, and I'll leave the topic of pickleball out of the conversation for now, but there was strong public support amongst the people that gathered there on Saturday, as well as in the survey results that the engagement firm, and I forgot to put their name here, there was, pretty extensive survey results. And I think Rose can maybe be more specific about this, but support for Indigenous community cultural center was very strong, one of the strongest items that people supported. And so far, honestly, I have not heard any other proposals for the building itself. The next design session will take place on Saturday, June 11th. And the city of Flagstaff's community engagement site, I've got the web address down there, thorpecommunityinvolvement.com. Okay. All right. Challenges. Upfront funding. The city can lease the property for a nominal amount, but has no funding for site prep or building renovation. They have some funding to try to begin to remediate, but have exhausted all their funding. Okay. I think I had another item in here, which somehow isn't on this slide, this version, but ICF has organized as a 501c3. So we are now ready and willing to obtain the funding, which is not going to be small, to renovate that building and turn it in, so that it can serve this vision that our community has. Once the center is built, if it's in this location, we will, the community will also be responsible for staffing, programming, and utilities. Their funding needs to be sustainable. Oh, there it is. Okay, I did put that in there. Other challenges include, and I don't know that I consider this a challenge in the sense of a negative, but yeah, additional thought will need to, and input will need to be put with regard to administration. The Indigenous Community Cultural Center will need a solid administrative structure that maintains its responsibility and accountability to the community. Nobody should feel left out. When tensions arise, as they almost certainly will, there must be a clear process to achieve reconciliation. And so I think this may be almost, that's our old seal. We have a new one. So yes, it's imperative that we all work together. That that we have what do they call it? Well, I think the mainstream word is buy-in, but I prefer to think spirit in from all the organizations, from the various different Native nations that are represented here in Flagstaff, and not only in the city of Flagstaff, but in the surrounding regions as well. So it's going to be really important for there to be consensus and unity and a unified vision so that this will work smoothly. All right, thank you, and I'm happy to listen and have a conversation, hear any questions, and see if I can answer them.
Okay, thank you very much, Chris. Very, very impressive presentation. So are there any questions or other items and issues for discussion regarding the subject matter?
Hi, Cora or co-chair. This is Rose. Before the questions start or comments, I just want to add in to Chris's presentation that the company that is the consultant paid by the city to carry out this public participation process. Their name is Southwest Decision Resources, and they're doing a really good job. They're working really hard to make sure that they're doing as much as possible to reach the public. And on their online surveys that were turned in, were there was over 1,000 that were garnered. I can't remember exactly the number, but it was a pretty good number. And like Chris said, many of those was in support of this topic, the Indigenous Community Cultural Center. And then at the gathering on Saturday, there was probably close to 200 people that showed up. And we did have a fry bread wagon that was pretty popular. And she's from Phoenix or the Valley area, and she'll be back on June 11th for that. And then as well, we were really grateful to Three in a Trees. Their food truck was there as well. And then a lot of it is really geared towards multi-use space. With this parcel, it's an 8-acre parcel, and it's really about, I think more thought is towards what will be complementary to each other for the use of the space. And so that's one of the things I know that is there on top of the list, is to make sure that whatever comes out, whatever is designated by City Council for use of the space, there's got to be some sort of complementary use and multi-use. Anyway, just to make sure that everybody knows that. So we're really grateful that we're part of this process, and that we did have a pretty good turnout from our Indigenous relatives. And I was happy to see a lot of them there, including some students. So I want to leave it at that, and I'll have you go through the questions and comments and anything that you need to talk about here. Chris, you have your hand up again?
Yes. Yes, I did. Thank you, Rose. Yeah, I was struggling to remember their name, but they are doing a phenomenal job, really. That was really enjoyable. I could tell stories, but it was, I had to leave. I'm glad to hear that some of our younger students and other younger people came by, because at the time that I left, it was mostly people like me who are not so young. So I'm glad, because I was thinking, man, if on June 11th, let's try to get lots of Native younger people out there as well on June 11th, because I think that will really show that this is a dynamic concept that has a lot of community support. Oh, I will have to say one thing about pickleball. There is a very, very organized contingent of people who are who want pickleball courts. There are some pickleball courts already. Some of you might not even know what pickleball was. I didn't until this came up. But anyway, they are very well organized. Some of them are not from Flagstaff. They come up here in the summertime from the valley, and they want to be able to play their pickleball. And they don't want just one pickleball court. They want, I think, what is it, 16 pickleball courts. So they're kind of, depending on your point of view, they are very well organized. They've been pretty aggressive in trying to make sure they are represented. So they had a lot of people at the event last Saturday, and I spoke with a couple of them, and that's all they care about. It's like they're willing to give support to an Indigenous community cultural center, but only if it doesn't get in the way of their pickleball. And when I think of compatible uses, that's not the first thing that comes to my mind. So I guess I'm saying that to emphasize that, the next time we have a gathering, next time that design session happens on June 11th, maybe we can organize to get more Native people there. I'm happy to field any other questions or comments people have.
Are there any other discussions or questions pertaining to this issue?
Co-Chair Phillips.
Yes, sir.
This is Adam. Chris, thank you for the presentation. Just a quick comment. Just a thought to share with the group. You know, keep the council in mind as you're going through all this. You know, after a meeting, send off a little email to council. Hey, wanted to let you know this is what happened. Here are my thoughts. Keep us in the loop. You know, I think that's a really good way to kind of stay at the front of the mind of the city council, and keep them engaged. I just think that goes a long way, and it's a small thing that we forget at times to do, but I think it really does go a long way. And Chris, I love your idea of getting youth involved and active, but equally important is to get them to speak at council meetings the Tuesday after, you know, hey, we went to the meeting last week and we saw this, and here's our thoughts. But engage, my point is engage with the city council through the process. That's all. I'm very excited to hear about the progress. And I'll just say, for me personally, the cultural center is a top priority, much more than pickleball. But as you said, Chris, they are organized, they are mean, and they want their courts. So yes, it's going to be a battle, as it always is, but we'll get there. Thank you.
Thank you. Cora, can I respond quickly?
Yes, yes.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. Adam, thank you so much. That's so true. I think what happened is we used to spend more time with our council members, and I think during COVID, we just got used to each being in our little bubbles, and that's very good advice for us to, not only ICF, but everyone else that's interested in this, that wants to advocate for this, to make sure and communicate that to council. They need to hear from us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Shauna, you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you. My question is concerning, yes, the presentation, and I just need clarification on how the Indigenous Commission, ICF, and City of Flagstaff are all working together for this really important project. So it was my understanding at the beginning of all of this that there was a recommendation from ICF to the Indigenous Commission about a community center, cultural center project. And since reviewing those recommendations, you know, at the beginning of all of this, we haven't formally visited those recommendations again. And then to hear that ICF is also doing work, is that work being done separate from the Indigenous Committee or the Indigenous Commission? Is it being done in tandem? Is it being done in partnership with the city, and then the Indigenous Commission has input on it? I'm just really confused, since it was a recommendation of one of the things that we work on, but I haven't heard exactly who has been working on this from the Indigenous Commission. So I just need some clarification on how the Indigenous Commission has this as a recommendation, with ICF also working on it with the City of Flagstaff.
Thank you for your question, Shauna. Chris?
Well, that's a good question. You know, ICF had been working on this before the commission was ever established. And perhaps, I don't know, I would want to hear from commissioners about this, because my understanding was that commission, the Indigenous Commission was, is there as an advisory group to the city, as well as a forum in which to communicate and be an interface between the city government and the Indigenous people of Flagstaff, and that ICF had approached the commission about this to garner their support. In terms of actually doing the work, ICF has been doing that, and it wasn't my understanding that the commission was charged with actually doing the work. Well, what do we mean by doing the work? Well, putting together the proposal, gathering the support for it. The commission can certainly assist with that. And if any of the commissioners, have input, along with any other members, Indigenous community members in Flagstaff, we can use all the advice we can get. We're always open for new ideas. But in terms of a formally, who's actually putting together this proposal right now, I was under the impression that that's what ICF is doing, and that we would consult. We're consulting with community members and with the Indigenous Commission in order to be as effective as possible.
Okay, thank you, Chris, for that response. Fawn, you have your hand up? Commissioner Toya, I'm sorry.
Yes, so I want to just make a comment, as I am a commissioner and a member of the ICF. Recently I was nominated to help with the ICF here in Flagstaff. So I want to say that I know that we, on the communication part, it's kind of been maybe a little slow, and I can say, I admit I probably wasn't being the best communicator, but like Chris said, most of us that are in the ICF group are on the commission. So I'm well aware now of informing those that don't belong on both groups, or are interested now at this point. So I just wanted to make that comment that that we are aware, and I guess, like you said, Chris, we do participate on both. So thank you for bringing that, and I will try and work on communicating a lot more better.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Toya. Rose?
Yes, I just want to comment on the way this is structured. So the Indigenous Commission is an advisory body to the City Council, and that's why in prior meetings I had stressed that your job and your voice as commissioners is very important when it comes to hearing from the community, such as ICF, when they bring something like this. This is something that is then given to City Council in the form of, through myself, either support for certain things that have been brought to the Indigenous Commission. And so ICF is a community grassroots group that has gone through the forums, that has gone through those recommendations that were presented to City Council back in 2017. So out of those recommendations came from, at that time, the City Council at that time, including the Mayor Coral Evans, who said we need to make an Indigenous Commission so that there is something internal inside the city structure that cannot be easily dismantled. because of future changes in city government. And so that's why the Indigenous Commission was created, so that these recommendations that came from the community are not lost again and people would have to start all over again. And so those are the relationships that we have. And so we can do it together. We can do it. You are also welcome to meetings at the ICF meetings whenever they have it. So if you want to learn more about it and be supportive in any of those recommendations, those kinds of things, the only thing is that since we are an official city organization, we just need to make sure that you don't have quorum unless it's posted at any one meeting, wherever it may be. So it's just important that you guys are aware of that. And so if you are going to have quorum, which means 4 out of the 7 voting members at a meeting or at a function somewhere, just let me know so that I can post it that there's potential quorum, but that you won't be talking city business or city type related business. So those are the only things that I want to share with you, because all of you as commissioners have gone through training regarding what your responsibilities are. You have those manuals that you can refer to regarding that. But you are the voice, Indigenous commissioners. You are the voice for the community. And there are going to be things that maybe NACA will come forward with. Those are some things that we're working on together. It came out of the forums, just for an example. It came out of the forums, the focus and concern for unsheltered relatives. So the city heard that, and the police chief, as well as the fire chief, as well as other people, came together to address the unsheltered relatives and not losing any more to exposure. NACA became part of that process through different channels. And so those are some things that we're working on together. There's some things that we worked on together within this group and also with ICF, which included having input into NAU's new president. So those kinds of things are going on. And you may not all know everything that's going on, but there are ways that we are trying to make sure, like Adam, Council Member Shimoni has suggested, that we have some sort of communication information that I'm still developing as to how we can get that kind of information out. Right now, I'm emailing you guys on different things that are going on, including this public participation that is happening with the Thorpe Park annex. And so just those are just some examples. And I just wanted to just give you that just for some context in the way that we're not like separate. We're working on all of these together as a community and as members of different organizations.
Okay, thank you, Rose, for the insights. As far as being the overall Indigenous coordinator from within the city of Flagstaff, your perspectives are very meaningful. And so next I have, it looks like Greg, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Chair. I hope everybody's doing well. A couple of quick comments, but I want to start by echoing everything we just heard from Rose. I think that was a very thorough and quite accurate assessment of how things are structured. As to what lies ahead with Thorpe Park Annex, you know, the process is deep into the community vetting, and I don't know how many more events there will be. We've had Rebecca Sayers to this group, this commission from time to time and give updates. We can do that again. But it's been in process for a while, and I have to suspect that we're nearing some at least closure of the community part, it will then find its way back to the city council. At the very outset of this, there was a wonderful meeting at the council chambers. This was before COVID, when we were still all in the room together, and the room was packed. And there was a lot of advocacy and enthusiasm and excitement about this project, and specifically the idea of a community cultural center. And council at that time, now it was the previous council, but they expressed their strong support for this. And that has, in my opinion, has not waned. And we just heard some comments from Council Member Shimoni to that effect. Council is very excited about this project. But in the interest of inclusion and transparency, the very right decision was made to have a community vetting process, and that has been undergoing for some time now. At the end of the process, when it gets back to council, and it would be great to see that happen with this council prior to the election. That's just my thought and hope. Then a decision is made to go forward, right? And if assuming that decision is made to see a community cultural center, this will transform into a process of procurement and solicitation, and kind of putting the word out there to see who would be available now to help fulfill this vision. This gets back to the presentation we had with the commission a month ago, when I had a friend in from Telluride talking about the project there, because that's what unfolded there. Is the council there sought to find a nonprofit to help complete a vision. And I see this unfolding a bit in the same way. And to the comments made earlier about the role of ICF and the role of the commission, and by the way, I would echo Rose's comment that this commission was very deliberately structured with a bit of an autonomous voice. So an advisory commission, yes, but one that is purposefully structured to have a bit of an independent voice, not influenced by staff, not influenced by council, not influenced by anybody, but one that is representative of all Indigenous peoples in this area. And I think the commission is functioning beautifully in that regard. At any rate, the idea there, and I think Chris Jocks, you know this because you've been involved, but others with ICF have been positioning to be able to respond to an eventual solicitation and be a competitive submitter to step in and start playing an active role in that idea of a community cultural center, assuming that that is an outcome. And all of this is based upon assumptions. So ICF as a nonprofit, might be well positioned to do that. I think the role of this commission at that juncture would be one of advisement and input. And I think it will be a very strong voice to be considered. So I wanted to share those things with you. I wanted to also let you know, just in follow up to the presentation a month ago about the project in Telluride, that this last week the proposed structure in the four walls of that building was approved. So they are moving forward with that vision, still in the fundraising realm, but they're on their way. It is a journey. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, going back to the comments about advocacy for the Thorpe Park Annex and pickleball, I just wanted, Chris, you were so polite and benign with your comments about that. Yes, they are a very organized group. They do bring in folks from the outside. They are a strong voice, and they have been present throughout this process. But I would encourage us all not to be overwhelmed with strong voices and strong advocacy, and look at this a little bit more holistically, because I guarantee you that is how our city council will be looking at it. I think I'll stop with that. Thank you for letting me share comments.
Co-chair, you're back on. You're muted. Co-chair Phillips, you're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, okay. All right, so Commissioner Cuddy-Eye, you got your hand up?
Yes. Hello, fellow commissioners and co-chair Phillips. I also wanted to just commend Rose for explaining the structure and the input that is encouraged by the other groups that are involved and interested in how this project is going about and organized. And thank you, Chris, Chris Jocks, for the for the presentation. I wanted to add my comment to what Commissioner Whitehead had asked too, is that Mr. Joggs had presented this before, and also that he has presented to other organizations and like the Indigenous Peoples Advisory Council, which is under the Coconino County Board of Supervisors. And I am a member of that as well. So we are aware of how this process is going about, and they have offered to have us be aware of it in a way that they come when we invite them, or they do make this presentation to our council meetings. And anyone is invited to attend those council meetings as well, advisory council meetings that IPAC has. So I just wanted to just add that that there is some communication going on with other Indigenous organizations to keep us aware of the process of this project. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Cuddy-Eye. Chris?
Yes, thank you, Madam Co-Chair. I wanted to very quickly give a shout out to Commissioner Yellowhair. Wait a minute, is he still on? Yes, yes, whom I remember with great admiration from your days as undergraduate at NAU. I know you've been on this commission and have been over at NACA for a while, and I haven't had a chance to actually meet up with you, but it's good to know that you're here.
Yeah, for sure, and I appreciate that. You should drop by the office for lunch someday if you can. So it'd be great to catch up with you, Dr. Job.
Yeah, I'm going to start having a little bit of time to do that, so I'm glad. Finally, I would like to ask Commissioner Whitehat if we've answered her question sufficiently.
Commissioner Whitehat? Are you still on?
Yes, I'm still here. Thank
Okay.
you, Chris, for bringing that back and for everybody explaining how they understand, especially for Rose clarifying that from the coordinator perspective. I have to admit I'm an individual where this is the only commission that I am involved in concerning Indigenous issues within the city of Flagstaff. So I'm not connected with ICF or the advisory board. So what I hear about what is going on concerning Indigenous issues in Flagstaff and the surrounding area is what I get from this commission. So that's kind of my ignorance coming to these meetings, is I'm not aware of other things that are going on around the city of Flagstaff. So that's definitely something I need to pursue to be more aware of. Maybe the recommendations that were put forth for the Indigenous Commission, but it also does help clarify, because I'm also hoping to work on finalizing the mission and the vision for the Indigenous Commission. So that everybody's input really helps me in thinking about how that process is to be finalized and wrapped up. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Whitehat. So, are there any other comments at this point in time? It is about 12:32. So if not, then I don't know how far along on the agenda we are. Again, thank you to everyone who gave their comments. Very much appreciated. It just adds more in-depth analysis in terms of this particular activity. But in addition to the Community Cultural Center, I think that because these issues are so crucial that it continues to merit not only an understanding, but the continued advocacy so that someday, our dreams will become true in terms of how we envision it, because some of these issues are long overdue, and we hope and pray that someday it will become a reality. Councilman Shimoni, Greg, and all the other folks within the city of Flagstaff government, we really, really do appreciate your support on these crucial matters. So thank you for the not only the relationship, but the there's such a thing that's out there, being a good relative to each other's, and that's what I continue to stand on, being a good relative. So even though you may be the colors of our skin may be different, but we're all one as a humanitarian race. So in that regard, I'd like to acknowledge you as my brother. So thank you very much for your ongoing and continued support. So next on the agenda, Rose.
All right, next on the agenda is the items for commissioners to consider. And that is, there are 4 items and maybe 5. I'll do the other one during announcements. But the 4 items that are on the agenda is an invitation from Flagstaff Shelter Services to visit or to tour their facilities. And that is occurring on May 23rd at 2 p.m. And I just need to know who's willing to come for that tour. And this invitation has also been extended to Indigenous Peoples Advisory Council with the Coconino County. And I asked if we could include the Indigenous commissioners as well. And Ross Altenbaugh was very excited that she would be hosting both of those groups, if at all possible. And Chris, if you are willing, maybe you can announce that to ICF the next time you meet. So that's the Flagstaff Shelter Service invitation to tour. The next one is Reclaim Water Facility invitation to tour as well. They are open. They can set up one tour for anybody, Indigenous community members that are willing to come and just get information on how that facility runs and questions that you might have. So just be I just wanted to put that on the table because they sent me notice that they'd like for Indigenous community members to be a part of that. And then the next one is the regional plan second presentation with Sarah Dar and her team. That will be on the June agenda. So I've already sent you materials to review as well as links. And if you need me to send that again, I will. I'll just go ahead and send it again. But please review those materials so that you can have a really good and thorough conversation with Sarah and her team at the June meeting. And then the next one is the vision and mission statements. I'm going through this really quick, but I'll hand it back over to you so people can talk about it. And the last one is the mission and vision statements. What do we need to do with that? And that was going to be on the agenda this month. But due to some unforeseen circumstances, we're going to move it to a future meeting. So just let me know how that's going to roll out and keep me in the loop of the people who are in the working group. Okay, you can comment on all those items, Chair.
Okay,
Phillips.
Heroes. Are there any proposed dates for these tours?
The Flagstaff Shelter Service is for May 24th at 2 p.m. And then the reclaimed water facility is not set yet. It just is going to be determined on interest. So I'll need to hear from all of you on that. That would include IPAC as well. Sharon, I don't know if you're still on. And then as well as Chris for ICEA.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Okay, all right. I think my phone is reaching its end. It's getting heated up, so in case I go out, you'll know why. So, but I think we're at the tail end of the agenda. Is there? I'm sorry. This agenda is just really small. I can't. I'm trying to read it.
So
Are we near?
We are almost at the end. We just need a couple more things and then we'll be done. Okay. So just make sure you plug in your phone so it doesn't go out.
Everything's plugged in. It's just getting kind of overheated.
Okay. Flagstaff Shelter Services, are you just going to get back with me on that, or can you just send me an email if you want, or text me to see who's all interested in going? Oh, nice. Okay. I see Meg, Commissioner Caboti, and then also see Commissioner Weathersby, who are interested in going. So that's great. Thank you so much. Others who still need to look at their calendars, please send me an email or a text message to let me know so I can communicate with Ross. And then as far as the reclaimed water facility, do that as well. Is that okay with you to just communicate with me by email or text? Everybody?
Yes, and Rose, it's me, Commissioner Toya. I just want to make a comment. NACA visits the shelter once a week, so thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Appreciate you too. Okay, the last one, we're down to informational items to and from commission members, staff, and future agenda items requests. So that's the next item. Co-Chair Phillips. I have one. Commissioner Phillips. I think she dropped off. Well, I think we still have quorum, so let me go ahead and just announce this, and I'll just communicate with Co-Chair Phillips. The last one I wanted to let you all know is that we need to do an Indigenous Commission report to City Council, and that is scheduled for May. Oh my gosh, I don't have it written down. But anyway, it's this month. And I wanted to just ask you if I just needed some volunteers as to who would be willing to be available for that presentation to council, and I'll send you the details. But we need to make sure that the agenda item is going to be on the council agenda, and that is usually at least 1 week before, depending on depending on what the procedures are. Sometimes it's 2 weeks, but it looks like it might be for May 18th that it has to be approved to be on the agenda. And
This is Commissioner Toya. I would like to be a part of the report. Thank you.
okay, all
This
right,
is Commissioner Weathersby. I would like to assist with the report as well.
all right. Thank you, thank you. Oh, I made a mistake on the Flagstaff Shelter Service date. It's the 23rd. It's the day before, the 23rd, May 23rd. I'm really sorry. And then the report to council is on May 24th.
That works for me. This is Commissioner Weathersby for both
Okay.
dates.
All right, awesome. And I'll get back to you on the 24th of when usually council starts around 3. Unless the time's changed, and I can let you know for certain what time that would be. Okay. That's all I have. Co-Chair Phillips. The next item is adjournment. Unless there's other announcements. Can you hear me? We can't hear you.
We can.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
I've been having some audio issues. I apologize. There's something wrong with my iPad, so, and my phone's overheating. So, but anyway, thank you very much to everybody for attending this meeting. And I think I learned a lot and from the discussions, and I hope you all did as well. So it is about 12:44. So at this point in time, we can adjourn the meeting.
Thank you. You guys all take care. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Be safe.
Thank you all. This is
See
Commissioner
y'all. Have a nice
Weathersby.
day.
I added the links for the Indigenous Convocation live stream and the digital program for tomorrow.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, have a good one.
All right, you too. Yeah.